Of the different countries the British Airways fly to was a board decision that... So the tails are in a very slow process, a long and slow process to repaint all of the tails in what was originally referred to as the Concorde livery, the livery that we first saw on the tail of Concorde many years ago. Malaysian and United Airlines, this is the flight to Los Angeles later on this afternoon. United Airlines with their 747-400, they're a new potential customer.
Our favourite airline.
It's the taxi clearance for the Argentinian aircraft.
Alpha to holding point Alpha 1, runway 16 right.
There you go. Give the taxi instructions to the northern end of the main north-south runway. If you've never drag raced a jet plane before, we're winning.
Ground recording 87, 186, 57 is a 57 with Nathan 186. 186, taxi holding point Bravo.
47 don't quite have the range of the 400 series aircraft. Another of the Boeing 777-300s, this one belonging to Emirates. The United Arab Emirates flying in and out of Dubai. With this and a number of other types of aircraft, they're considered one of the more popular airlines in the world at the moment when it comes to what we don't get to see on our tours. Quite a wide variety of aircraft from all over the world. The yellow and black signs you can see out to our left are the taxiway direction signs. All lettered, A to Z, using the phonetic alphabet, known as taxiways Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, etc. And that's how they direct the aircraft around to and from the runways, takeoffs and landings. This runway out here to our left at 4 kilometres long. Once the aircraft have found the localiser beam, they'll then find the glide path beam that will give them their correct angle of descent and their correct direction. And in a case of an emergency, the ability to land here at Sydney Airport in runway out to the right took 5 years to build, was opened in 1994, and it's just under 2.5 kilometres long, threshold to threshold. So it's considerably shorter than the main runway, but it's still approved for all commercial traffic. 747s can land there. All bar the heaviest 747s could also use that runway for takeoffs. The importance of this extra runway here becomes more and more apparent, especially on a still day in certain circumstances. Now, that one getting off the ground at the same time as the 767 touched the ground here, something you couldn't do with just one runway, of course. But because of every 45 to 50 seconds, this is the glide path facility in front of us. If they were landing from the south, something they couldn't do today because of the wind, of course, but if they were landing from the south, electronic beams would be fired from the awnings on the tower down onto the black tarmac surface and bounced at 3 degrees, 20 nautical miles to the south. We also need a more accurate way of working out the exact wind strength and the wind direction. The windsocks are a good visual reference, but of course the controllers need more accurate measurements, and this is one of the anemometers here on the right hand side, wind speed and direction indicator, one at each end of all of the runways as well. Also one at Kernel, and they give you the wind speed and the wind direction accurately at each end of the runway. One of the most important information, such as the aircraft's flight number, its altitude and its airspeed. So these days, every 3.5 seconds, we not only know the new position of the aircraft, we also know who they are, how high they're flying and how fast they're travelling, thanks to that piece of equipment there. Be called to enter the airport via a series of emergency access gates and muster, waiting for the opportunity to take over from the rescue firefighters in any major emergency, anything that's more than just a standby. Speaking of, the number 4, capable of carrying 10,200 litres of water and 1,300 litres of foam mixture. When you add the foam mixture to the water, it has the effect of increasing the volume of the water tenfold. So this vehicle is capable of producing 102,000 litres of foam in 2.25 minutes. Aircraft now transferred from the tower controller in the tower to the departures controller over there in the building. We might give you a more realistic idea of what this aircraft sounds like as well. And then of course you've got all of the, by the time the front wheel's getting off the ground, the aircraft's doing well over 250 kilometres an hour, so all of the steering mechanisms on the wings and tail assembly of the aircraft are doing the job. Two methods of slowing the aircraft down as well. Of course, the wheels do have brakes. Once the aircraft touches the ground, you'll notice spoilers flip up on the tops of the wings and they force more downward pressure onto the wheels, of course, so the brakes are more effective. To also keep the brakes effective in wet weather, the runway itself is grooved across to dissipate the water quickly. Not only the tyres on the aircraft groove, but the runway itself is grooved. And there are reverse thrust ports, which have only unfortunately just closed on this aircraft now, which open on the sides of the engines as the air is sucked in through the huge intake at the front, rather than going straight out the back to give the aircraft forward thrust. It's diverted out the side of the engine through ports and back forward of the aircraft to create reverse thrust, and that's how the aircraft slows down. So the engine doesn't stop and turn around the other way like somebody asked the other day. It continues to drive in the same direction and just diverts the thrust of the aircraft forward instead of back. There are a number of fuel tanks on the aircraft. The two larger fuel tanks are the two wings themselves, yep. There are inboard fuel tanks as well, just behind where the landing gear tucks away. There's also on most long-haul jumbos, there's a fuel tank down the slope section at the back. It's a big tube basically, which holds about 12,500 litres itself. So it's 5 fuel tanks on most 747s. That new ER has an extra fuel tank which is removable. That's what gives it the extra range. The one we stopped, that's basically a big fuel tank that is in the shape of a cargo container. They stick in the back of the aircraft, and that's what gives it the extra weight and the extra range. You can see they stack them up fairly close together, ladies and gentlemen. You can see the 767 beginning to bear down on the 737. Once the aircraft speeds have matched each other, give it clearance to land.
50 degrees at 23 knots, runway 16 right, you clear to land. Runway 16 right,
So as you can see, they don't have to wait until the aircraft is off the ground. They just need to wait until the aircraft departing has matched the speed of the aircraft.
Takeoff, Bravo, g'day.
Do you want to wait for one more?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's just the Aussie pilot saying the date of the tower, isn't it?
You mean some other, it's become a bit of a tradition these days, even pilots from other parts of the world attempt at least.
1698, line up runway 16 right. Line up 165 on 1698.
That's just, it's a very efficient way of saying they made it on fuel tank.
Just telling this pilot as they come off the runway that they do have precedence over the other aircraft on the same taxiway. You can see another 767 coming up here on our left. Just told this aircraft here that it is the number 1 aircraft, so it gets to turn around in front of this one, which will give way to it. See if we can get a wave out of the first officer this time as they go past. Probably looking at the other aeroplane, no doubt.
179, line up runway 16 right. Line up 16 right, quarters 179.
These are the X-Impulse Boeing 717s, this one taking off here in front of us. 116 passengers, all economy class. These are the aircraft they're using to fly to places like the Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast and even to Coffs Harbour these days. Based on the design of the old DC-9 of course, but with considerably more powerful engines than the DC-9s used to have.